Oh, I'm looking forward to this podcast. Always. I love meeting the guests. And today's guest is the gorgeous Casey Cumbers. And I met Casey earlier in the year when she um, attended one of the happiness hangouts that I run here in Canberra, and she turned up on her own, not knowing any of the other guests and looking to be part of a community and to create some new friendship. And she's been a central part of that community ever since, which has been beautiful getting to know Casey. But before I introduce you to her, my impression of Casey is that she's an extremely brave woman, and brave, stretching her comfort zone, rocking up somewhere where she doesn't know anyone. And I know she's done that several other times as well. And also in response to this podcast, that this podcast is in the series of part of the mini series about confidence. And I did a shout out in the community, seeing if anybody wanted to share their stories. And Casey embraced that opportunity. So I guess it's about that trying new things. So I love that. And many of the guests on this podcast, it's the first time that they've been a guest on a podcast. And they often say to me, like, who would be interested in even listening or to my story? And oh my gosh, there are so many people interested, and I get so much feedback about the power of the conversations that we have and the pearls of wisdom that drop. So the benefits to the podcast are just so many layers. The listeners benefit. I benefit because I get to know my guests at an even deeper level. And the guests absolutely get to benefit too, because it's by sharing their stories is a real confidence booster for them as well. So I'm looking forward to hearing Casey's story. How are you, Casey? How are you today?
Oh, really good. Thank you.
Now, tell me, and I start the podcasts off just getting a little bit of a snapshot of what stage of life our guests are at and where they're currently living. So what stage of life? Where are you at in life?
Happily married, have been for 6 years at the moment, going on 7. So my hubby and I have been together for 9 years.
Yeah.
We have a beautiful fur child, Cinder, who is turning 17 next month. So they're probably some of my key people in my life or my family. And we've recently moved to Canberra, as you said at the start, I think it was December last year that we moved from Adelaide. So originally from New South Wales, and then, we were in Adelaide before we came to Canberra.
And so do you know anybody? Do you travel around with work, or is that with?
My husband's work. So we have to move quite a fair bit in terms of his work. And it can depend on what's different parts. So sometimes we know where we're going, we'll understand where we're going, and other times it may change slightly as well.
Oh, okay. So lots of change in life around things. Do you know people here in Canberra?
We had a few friends, and we recently connected with a couple of those people, but a lot of our family have actually moved away from Canberra. They went up to the sunny state of Queensland, which I think a lot of Canberrans
They
have done.
do, yeah, they do that. Because it's cold, it gets cold here in winter, and
Yeah,
Queensland, yeah, a beautiful place. But
but it's a little bit different, I think, coming back now. When we first met here, where we had the family and everybody here, now we don't. And my husband grew up here as well, so it's very different
oh,
for
did
him
he?
as well. Yes.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Coming back to a place that you've grown up in and been away, and he would see lots of changes as well. But that would be interesting.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. So where did you grow up? You grew up in
So grew up in New South Wales. So I grew up in country town Orange for a little bit, and then we moved from Orange when I think we were in year 5, so 95. We then moved up to the Central Coast to a place called Warnervale, and we lived up there basically up until my teens and stuff like that. So bit of country, bit of coast.
yeah. Oh, beautiful. Orange. My grandmother grew up in Orange, or she lived in Orange. So we spent a lot of time there as kids when she was living there. And I grew up in Young, which was kind of down the road a little bit. So coastal, to teenage years. What happened then? Did you start work
Um,
in?
Yeah, so basically, I was living on the Central Coast and I got a traineeship and I was working for an accounting firm in North Sydney. So I was traveling down on the train to Sydney every day to and from. Yeah, so
What's that,
that's,
about an hour and a half, an hour? And
yeah, back in those days, I think it's about an hour and a half. So I used to get maybe to 2 hours, depending on how slow the trains were.
oh, there and back. Goodness, commute.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so 2 hours each way. But from there, basically, I did that for a couple of years up until I was about 24.
Yeah.
Um, and then I moved to Sydney, took the big leap because I was like, well, I've been traveling here for so
Yes.
long, and now it's time to get some time back.
Yeah.
And yeah, I basically spent the majority of my time in Sydney after that.
Okay. And is that where you met your husband?
Yeah, I was living in Balmain at the time, and he was living in Canberra. And then, yeah, we were introduced through Facebook through a friend. And then, yeah, from there we went on a blind date, and then happily married since.
Oh my gosh, Casey, you are brave. You are. It's almost like you're take that step out and just see what happens. Have you always been like that?
I think I don't like to get stuck in the norm. A lot of my friends used to say, you're just going to meet someone at the pub. Well, that just didn't seem to happen. And because I was traveling for work and stuff like that, and I thought, well, if anybody's going to be a good judge of character of somebody for me, was potentially this person. So I was like, well, why not? Like, what have I got to lose? I think I just turned 30. So in that 30 kind of crusade period where you're out of that learning period of your 20s. And I think then I was just like, well, what have I got to lose? When I was at that age, I kind of was like, well, what I've been doing hasn't been working, so why not?
Oh, that's almost like what have I got to lose? I think that's almost from some of the things where I've met you as well, and you've gone to events and you've stepped out of, because going to an event where you don't know anyone can be a bit daunting, but it also can be a great opportunity to, what have you got to lose? And it's almost like when you said you've met your husband and you're together and very happily married, that sounds like a really good outcome.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole thing of just getting yourself there. And
Yes.
I think because my husband and I have such a really close relationship together, when I was talking to him about going to certain events and stuff like that, I looked at past experiences where I hadn't done it soon enough. And then
Yes.
I made all these really good relationships and we were about to leave. So I was like, well, I'm not going to do that again. I want to have them try and have it happen from word go. And then he's been a big supporter of, with me. I think even with the first two events, it was, I'll help coach you. He was coaching me a lot to say, it's okay, you'll be all right. Like, what can you do? Just go and see if it's for you or not. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
That's great. That is so good. Would you consider yourself to be a confident person?
I think I'm a mixture of both. I can have peaks of confidence. I
Yeah.
think I can be brave, like you said,
Yeah.
but then be having the confidence about being brave. Sometimes I probably don't have. It
Yeah.
goes through peaks and troughs. I think I'm happy to do the brave part of, yeah, I'll give it a go. Um,
Yes.
let's just see what happens. I'm not much of a risk taker, I would say. Normally, I like things planned out
Yeah.
by the day, but if I can make sure that I've put a plan in place that I know that, if this happens, I'll be all right, then I'm happy to step out of that comfort zone, I think, a little bit more and have that confidence to do that and be a little bit more brave.
Yeah. Do you know what? I relate to that. I have elements where I am really confident, and then there's elements when I second guess almost everything that I do. But I do like to have a framework in place where I can have, a bit of planning, a bit of structure so I can be, is it flexible, confident within that framework. Like it's interesting because there's sometimes that I'm completely spontaneous and love the unknown, but there's other times when I just go, oh no, I need to know the ins and outs and stuff so I can be confident within that. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
As I'm talking about that, I couldn't even pinpoint what the specifics are. If I was coaching myself right now, I'd ask more details, but I won't do that. I won't do that. So elements of confidence, elements of feeling brave and stepping out.
Yeah.
So
And there is that self-doubt there, I think, like what you're talking about, where you go, and it's what I found is not mulling over it. Like I think if you do something in when you're being confident, you should be. I spent a lot of time in the past mulling over that part, going, "Oh, did I do the right thing? Did I?" And questioning it a lot, and I spent too much time in that spot.
yes.
And what I found now is that I'm able to kind of get myself out of that, and I might do it for a brief, like, a couple of hours go, oh, okay, cool, but I'm not doing it for a week straight like I used to, where I'm dwelling on things. And because I just worked out that it was just so counteractive, and the way it was making me feel was just, it wasn't allowing me to step out of my comfort zone, because I was always really worried about, oh, I'm going to have to go through this down cycle afterwards of this. I get this confidence high, or this being brave, and then it's just going to mold down. Like I'm going to go on the downhill slope again. So, but yeah.
Oh, I love that. And you sound very self-aware. You sound very self-aware about the cycles that you go through and some strategies of how to move through it. And we will talk more about those. But I love what you just said there about not dwelling on things. And my version of that is, have my 5-minute pity party about whatever happened and allow myself to feel shitty about it, but not to stay there. That I've learned those strategies not to stay there, because it's draining and it blocks future stuff.
And I think you don't have to be happy all the time either. So there may be periods where that needs to be a little bit longer. And I think my husband always says to me, "Oh, you're just so positive all the time. You've got this view on it." And it's like, well, but sometimes I don't, and that's where at us together in our relationship will help each other in terms of going, "Hey, it's not as doom as gloom as what we think it is. Look what's going on," or "Don't do that." Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful to have that connection. And I would say that you're probably wired for positivity. And I come across this a lot of the time with different people. I have that same wiring, but it doesn't mean that I'm happy and positive all the time. Like I have stuff that happens in my life and stuff that's pretty crappy, and I go through stuff, but I don't get stuck in that stuff. I sort of have some strategies that help me to move through it. And I think sometimes people confuse positivity with that's bullshit. You can't be like that.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you find
Agree.
that? Do you find
Yeah,
that?
I agree. Yeah, they're like, well, it can't always be positive, but it's like, but it's not about it, the situation being positive. It's about the outlook that you have, or how you've kind of made peace with it. That it's about your peace and what peace you've made with that decision, or whatever it is. That you either can't change it, or it is what it is, and sometimes you just got to move through it.
Yeah. And a big fit thing for me is to what can I learn from this that will help me to deal with it if it happens again. But often when I get the learnings from it, I then don't have to deal with those things again. It's when I don't get the learnings that the things keep hitting me in the face.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Um, have there been sort of certain events in your life that have maybe impacted your confidence more than others?
Yeah, I would say so. I think from a younger childhood, like I think everybody goes through the stages of a bit of bullying and stuff, self-image and stuff like that. So I think got myself, you've always got that self-awareness about, who you are, what you look like and stuff like that. So that's always been one thing I think that I've had to deal with. I think in my more recently, if I think of an example where I've gone through that, and probably it was, I think, I wouldn't say the worst period in my time, but I feel like that it impacted me the most was we were living, we thought we had it made. We were living in Newcastle, up in Nelson's Bay by the beach. We had everything worked out in terms of our jobs, where my job, where I was heading in terms of my career path and stuff. I was like, great, we don't have any kids, so I invest a lot and have always had a lot of self-worth from my career. And I've always gotten a lot back from it as well. Like, I feel I'm very rewarded by what I do. It's not saving people's lives or anything like that, but I am rewarded by what I do.
Beautiful.
And then the plan that we had put in place that we thought was going to happen, we thought, okay, great, it's only going to change slightly. This is what's going to happen. And then we were told the plan had changed completely. They couldn't explain to us why. So there was no reason why we were being told something was changing. And we were told we were moving to Adelaide. So I think we found out in August, and then we basically had literally till the end of the year to get ready to move our whole life over to Adelaide.
So you were going down one path, thinking that you were going to be staying in Newcastle?
Well, around in New South Wales, we thought that, we're still in that central hub of where we're from. And, everything had been ticked in the boxes. Everything we're being led to believe this is what it was. And then, that plan completely changed.
So for those listening not in Australia, New South Wales is on the east coast, midway up Australia. Adelaide is 1,200 kilometres, probably 1,400 kilometres away, 1,500 kilometres away from Sydney. So a day's drive and a completely different state in the country. So did you have to change job? Did you have a job lined up where you were going?
No, so that was part of the process that I had to go through. So I've worked for the same company now for, I think I've been there 12 years, and I love it. I've had lots of different roles. At this point, the role I was doing wasn't portable. And we were in that time where it was pre-COVID and no one used to work from home, different states or anything like that. So it was a very different time to what we're in now.
So how did you manage that, finding out? So number one, you'd had everything sort of organised, but then that was just thrown up in the air without really an explanation as to why. And you didn't have a lot of time to organise your life. What impact did that have?
I didn't handle it well. So I think people always say that you knew this when you signed up, when you married him, that you could move. But I think it's very different when you're told a certain scenario is going to happen and then it changes, because had we been told the other way beforehand, then I probably would have had more time to prepare. So for me, this felt like it was the end of the world. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have no job, no career, and what am I going to do? Like, how are we going to pay our bills? We're modest people. We don't have a lot. What's going to happen to our worlds as we know it, basically?
Yeah, so a lot of questioning and a lot of the unknown. And as you said, this is before COVID. And what I've heard you say too is that you really get you love your work and you get a lot of value out of your work, and then finding out that potentially you would have to leave the job role. And what does that mean for you in moving? What does it mean for you in your career? And I can imagine, were there questions about what does it mean for you as a person?
Yeah.
What was sort of going on? Talk me through what was going on for you.
Yeah, I was really worried about that. If I didn't have my job, what would I be? Like, I took a lot of people, whenever they talked to me, it was never, how's everything going? It'd always be, oh, how's work going for you? I saw you doing this or you're doing that. Like, everybody's used that always to engage with me, because they've always seen that as, my husband always says, he goes, oh, I've got a career focused wife. Like, that's who she is. And so I was worried about that. I was like, well, who will I be without that? The Adelaide job market as well, like it's not Sydney, it's not Canberra, it's not like a huge CBD area. So, you know, the opportunities I was worried about in terms of what I would have in terms of options down there. And what that would do in terms of me having to, I hadn't been out in the market for quite a long time in terms of redoing up resumes, you know, all that fun stuff that comes with moving.
Oh, I hear it's like that. Who am I without work? And we often do when we are introduced to somebody new. The question is, oh, what do you do? And it's
Yeah.
like the assumption is what do you do for work? And not who are you or what's, going on in life. But that tends to be an identifier for people. So what do you do? And then here you are with a like, oh my gosh, who am I going to be without that? And then moving to a city. Did you know anybody in Adelaide? Would you have
No,
known?
no,
No.
yeah. So we had no family and no friends, no networks down there. And when you move with my husband's occupation, you literally you don't know, get to see the place online, but you don't know the area.
Oh,
I'd never been to Adelaide before, so I had no expectations about, I
yeah.
was like, oh, well, what is this place? Like, where am I going? Like,
There's a lot of faith there, isn't there? Like a lot of unknown. And you're right too when people say, oh, but you knew this when you signed up for a relationship with your husband, but it's different when you're actually in the midst of it. Sure, you know it, um, but you're actually experiencing it. And it's not about discrediting or devaluing the experience that you go through there.
but I think too as well is that you know it, but it's owning it. You
Yes.
know it, and you might. A lot of people I find who are in a similar situation, they will. And I know you can't compare, but I do sometimes. I look at it and go, you can fight this all you want, but it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yes.
And I didn't get to that point for 12 months after that. I did fight it for a while, even once we got there. So
Oh,
it took me a while to, not that I fought it, but I just think that internal kind of dialogue was still there for me. And it wasn't till I kind of had made peace with it and helped work through all the strategies that I was able to get to that point. And it does take a while.
oh, we're going to unpack that now because I see that a lot with people that they hang on to the thing and the emotion that they're hanging on is often anger, resentment, blame. Like, why me? Why is this happening to me? I hear a lot of people going, why me? You know, we'd had our lives planned out, but now it's been changed. People have made a decision. Why me? Why did this happen to me? What did you go through? What was your process?
I lost my confidence completely.
Did
So
you?
I think it's the worst I'd ever been in terms of self confidence. I was having to go to partner events and stuff like that. And had just this anxiety and stuff before that, just the pressure I felt
Yeah.
that I was trying to impress people or show people that, hey, I can do this somewhere else in another state or believe in me so that, you know, I can, maybe there'll be a person that would refer me or something for another job when I get to Adelaide. So in that kind of, I would say the relocation period or that there was a lot of events where I actually had to go and see I think a hypnotherapist to help me deal with what I was going through, to give me to help me just realize what was going on with my emotions and why I was feeling a certain way. And so I could get myself and be present at the events as well, because without putting that pressure on myself that, hey, this person's going to get you a job, or this person's this decision or whatever it was. And sometimes it wasn't even that. It was just that perception of, you know, I didn't want people to feel sorry for me as well because I had chosen this.
Yeah.
And I love my husband to death and I would never have chosen it any other way. So I did choose this. So I didn't want that sympathy kind of as
Yeah.
well. So Yeah, I think what helped me through this period was one, the hypnotherapy. I was seeing her, I think it ended up being once, at one point, it was once every 2 weeks for a little bit,
Yeah.
just because I was in that state.
Yeah.
And it was the only thing that seemed to just let me settle with what was going on and put it in a place that I could actually function.
Yeah.
And then I went through probably doing it monthly, and I got to a point which was really good right before the move where I felt normal again a little bit. Like, I don't
Mm.
know, normal doesn't
Yeah.
sound right, but I just felt like I was able to function. And I was starting to get a little bit excited about the fact of, hey, we're going to do a road trip over to Adelaide. And, that's exciting. We get to have this big holiday together, the two of us and our fur child. We're going to go across the country, have all these adventures, and then get to this unknown destination. So I had kind of gone from, oh my God, I was still worried about it from the job point
Yeah.
of view, but I kind of tried to just put that aside so I could enjoy what we were about to do and just be confident in that, hey, this is going to be good. Like, who else gets to drive? I think it took
Yeah.
us 3 weeks to get over there. We went to
Oh.
all different places, and when we got there, we took the wrong road into our new place, and we ended up on this dirt road, and I thought we lived in the middle of nowhere. This road we took. So
Oh gosh. Tell me, let me just so when you're seeing the hypnotherapist, that was when you were before you moved.
yeah,
That was helping you with the strategy to be able to move.
yeah.
Um, awesome, awesome. I love hypnotherapy. I do that with some of my clients, depending on where they're at. But I love that you chose a modality. Did you know much about hypnotherapy before you?
No, and I had read a little bit about in terms of, I heard people about doing it for weight loss or
Yeah, yeah,
for, smoking and stuff like that. But I'd been reading about just people with stress and periods in
yeah,
their life, how they were seeing results within it.
yeah,
And it wasn't the first session
yeah,
that I kind of got the most out of it. It was
yeah,
probably the second because
yeah,
I could process what was happening. But I just find I can't do meditation. I can't do mindfulness stuff well. But
yeah,
hypnotherapy is just, it just gives me this complete calm.
yeah.
And I just feel so relaxed afterwards. It's incredible.
It's great. And I think also when you say can't do meditation, mindfulness, to me, having that active mind, the hypnotherapy, the hypnosis actually bypasses the conscious mind and gets to the subconscious. And it can be really, really powerful for unpacking what's going on, but also embedding those new suggestions about reframing the situation and what you were able to do to get from fear and anxiety and overwhelm into being excited about the trip and the meaning. And sure, still being nervous about it, but it's about not being overwhelmingly, debilitatingly
Yeah.
worried and nervous about it.
Yeah, and then I think, from a maintenance point of view, what I've found is through doing some of that hypnotherapy is that I know when we did our mid-year retreat, I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
able to do some of the mindfulness and the meditation because my mind is a lot slower and clearer. And
yeah,
it's sometimes like you can hypnotize
yeah,
yourself now to self-regulate, I guess, your
yeah.
emotions a little bit better.
Yeah, I think the mid-year reset that Casey was talking about, I ran a retreat here in Canberra, and there was quite a bit of meditation in that, and it's interesting because I'm not great at sitting and silencing my mind. I'm an active meditator, so yes, I get that feeling, and it is about regulation. I love that word that you say about regulation because sometimes people think, oh, I've done the thing once and I should be cured. To me, it's this whole, it's self-discovery, it's self-management, it's self-mastery. To me, that's an evolving process. It's not just about doing one thing once or trying it once and expecting that it should have miraculous results. It's about for me, it's almost those micro habits that you create and continue to use there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, that was what was made the first year by doing that self-regulation and that self-checking in. So I was quite lucky. I'm incredibly lucky, I think about it. My work actually did find me it was a different opportunity, but still within the same area where I was able to trial it out for a year. Not change. And that was good in terms of the move where I didn't have to change everything. I was able to just change my role slightly. And then at the end of that, there was the opportunity then for us to have a conversation about, what does that mean? Did I want to keep doing that? And it just gave me a couple of options. So when I was doing that, because I was worried about still that period after that of what am I going to do if I don't like this? What's going to happen? And that first year. But what actually happened was, and my husband reminds me this of all the time, is that after that first year, everything started to work out. By taking that opportunity, it actually opened up. I got made I went permanent again. I moved into different projects and stuff like that, which is now more my niche than what I thought what I was doing before was my niche. And it's opened up so many more opportunities. And I actually, now that we're in Canberra, miss Adelaide. Like I miss um, so I've kind of come, and my husband says it all the time. He misses there too, because we did meet a lot of people, and because COVID hit as well,
Yeah.
made a family over there with friends that we'd met, and they became our family because we couldn't see anybody. So I think it all worked out in the end. We had some really good, the first year was tough, but, I think the self-regulation helps. And I still have to do that. Like that's not the first time I'm ever going to go through that. I find even now I still have to, when I get too in my head, slow things down so then I can put a plan in place so I can have the room to be confident, I would say, and be able to do what I need to. But yeah, it all worked out and no regrets. Like it's just getting through that phase or that tough part.
Oh, I love that so much that it worked out and it opened up some opportunities that you weren't even aware of. And that often is the thing that happens when we're hanging on with this, this really tight stranglehold on things. We can't bring in any new opportunities because we're just holding on so tight. And it's hard. Surrendering, to me, that surrendering is about trusting that it will be okay. And sometimes when we're going through stuff, it's really hard to go, actually, I'm not sure whether it is going to be okay. It can be easy to really second guess things. My daughter's going through an experience at the moment where she's looking for new accommodation, and she's been looking for ages and ages. And then out of the blue, one option came up, so she accepted it. But the option she really wanted, that she's been waiting to hear back from for the last couple of months, I think within 2 days of this other option coming up, it's come up for her, and now she has to make a decision. It's just like, but if I accept one, does that mean that the other one, she's still waiting to hear some bits and pieces? And I said, trust that whatever decision you make, it will be okay. Because if you sit and worry about it and, try and second guess what's happening and what's happening, you can't move that process quicker. But by stepping back and surrendering and trusting that it will be okay, having faith, that's a hard thing, but that's where, if we can get to that space, I think that's a really good space to be.
Yeah, and I think too that you don't we saw so many other people who had been, in our situation where they would just, it was like they see it as not a life sentence, but they wouldn't, when they were there, wouldn't experience things or go to different places because they're like, we're just here we'll just do our time and then we'll go. It's like, well, I think I got to that point where we were like, well, when are we going to get this opportunity again to come here? And let's experience every chance of it that we get. And the one regret that, and I think that this is where I've changed, is that the relationships we started to make down there were towards, I think it was, so we were there for 4 years, and the relationships kind of evolved, but it was the last 2 years where we really got to have those. So I think that's where now I've kind of said to myself, well, if I want that again and to have those relationships, be confident, because I know work's okay now because I've been able to move again, work's all good.
Yeah.
And now I can go and actually work on finding my people or my networks like I have been, but I need to do that sooner than later than waiting until we're halfway through leaving again or something like that.
Oh, that's very cool because it's about, you know, learning from what was happening, but also your outlook on life, like getting back to that positive outlook on life. You're there for 4 years. So you could either be there for 4 years and have a really shitty time, or you can go, we're here for 4 years, so let's make the most of the opportunity that we have. That's how I live life. I live life going, you know what, I'm sure I've had lots of lifetimes, but I have this one time, this one life now to live. I'm going to make the best of this life because it can go too quickly.
Yeah.
And it's about how can I create this to be my best and most beautiful life? And what can I do those days when I'm feeling like, it's like, well, is that actually living my best life? No, so
Yeah.
don't stay stuck in this.
And I think too that I do still go, and my boss picks up on it at a time where I do have those moments of not being confident,
Yeah,
and he goes, it's that it's not looking to them to give me that reassurance that as well that I am doing the right thing. I need to know that no matter what I do in terms of my decisions, that as long as I'm happy with them or I've made my peace to say, yep, that's what I thought was right in the moment. If it was wrong, that's okay because it's just a learning
yeah,
and that's okay as well. And I think that's the biggest thing with confidence is that you can be confident in the moment, but doesn't mean the outcome has to be perfect. Like you can, it's just that it could either end up a different way,
yeah.
um, or you just need self belief that someone's going to back you or catch you if you fall. I guess if
Yeah.
it's the wrong one, that you've got that support, and that's why that plan's really important. Around, well, I've actually thought about this, if this happens and I do this, I'm confident I've done the right thing.
Yeah.
This person will catch me if I fall. And if they're not there, that's okay because I thought it was the right thing to do.
Oh my gosh, Casey, that is awesome because it's about having that confidence in yourself. And sure, it's great to get reassurance from others just to check in that we're on the right path. But I think if we rely on others, if we put our value in their hands, that's hard. It's about, if we can put our hands on our hearts, and I often have this as a measuring stick, that if I can, at the end of the day, put my hand on my heart that I made that decision in good faith with, as much insight and information as I possibly can. And if I can sleep at night, then that's a good thing. So it might not work out how I want it to, but that's often the universe saying that, yeah, I've got some other plans for you. I've got some
Yeah,
other
or it
plans.
could be, hey, listen, this probably wasn't, but you got to try again.
Yeah, yeah,
One of my mentors always said, sometimes it's not the first idea that you come up with that you grip onto, or the first thing you try. It could be the third or the fourth thing that actually works. So you can't let the fear of constantly failing as well at some stuff, because there are going to be moments where you're going to feel like you're not getting a win.
yeah.
But it will come. And some things you can't get what I like to call the sugar hit from, where you're getting
Yeah.
those quick wins all the time. There are going to be things that are going to have that slower burn where you're going to get the big win at the end.
Oh, Casey, this has just been beautiful. So you've been in Canberra now for not quite 12 months. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And what have you been doing to create those connections here that you've
Yeah.
learned to do that quicker? What have you been doing?
So, probably a couple of different things. So I'm quite lucky because I work from home and I travel to Sydney sometimes for work, and I only go for maybe once a week. It's about making sure you can. I've been trying to balance my Sydney life with I like to call my Canberra life.
Yeah.
So when I'm in Sydney, allowing enough time to catch up with my people who are there, who I haven't been able to catch up with some time, and actually spend the time with them instead of jamming my diary full of work stuffs,
Yeah.
actually having that time out for them. And then I think from when I look at my Canberra life as well, it's making sure that I'm doing bits and pieces of stuff, but it's not overwhelming. So I've been to a couple of the Happiness Hives, and that was really good just in terms of, just having different people to talk to. It's not a mums and bubs club, which I love, but there's a mixture of people there with all different life experiences or stages of life, which I find quite comforting, because I've always thought that someone's circumstances had to be the same as mine for me to be able to relate to
Interesting.
them. Whereas I think that's really broadened my mindset a little bit to go, all right, well, people can empathize with me still, because they understand that, hey, I might not be a mum with kids, but I still do have a family, a life, a job that's really important. And, there are things that I go through which are similar to what they go through as well. So, yeah, I found that's been really beneficial. I've been to I went to one of the CBR events as well, which was good to catch up with a couple of the ladies there. So, and it was nice to have that work side of it, understand what people are doing from a entrepreneurial, I would say, kind of vibe. And what I took away from that was not the fact that, hey, listen, I'm going to go and come up with a brilliant idea and start up my own business, but that actually helped a lot with thinking about just positioning myself at work and branding and stuff like that of my own corporate image. So I've really liked what I've been able to take away from that as well. And then I've been also just with the people that we do know here, trying to do different things with them, or, bringing them along to things with me as well, like the Happiness Hive, or going for walks and stuff like that as well. So that's been really positive. So I think that's really helped overall in terms of me settling back in, I guess, or getting that life started again down here.
And it sounds like you're being very proactive about the connections to maintain current connections and to look for opportunities to establish new connections, but with a variety of people. So you're not locking yourself into any, one area. It's about seeing the value in a variety of
Yeah.
areas. And you were even talking about, creating your own kind of space where people can come along and connect as well.
Yeah, I think that'll be on the list if I do get to it. I did find something similar to what I wanted to do, which is called meetups, I think it's
Oh,
called.
nice. Perfect.
So,
Yeah.
what I was thinking is that maybe I'll start to, as part of my developing more relationships, to start attending some of those events.
Perfect.
I
Yeah.
thought, and then maybe learn about, how they do it, and to see the types of people and, the different events that they hold and stuff, because there's a big variety of them. There was trivia nights to walking groups and everything as well. So I think that's where I've kind of pivoted a little bit to go, all right, cool. Maybe I'll try that first, see what's out there. And then if it doesn't suit particularly what I'm after, then then it's, hey, I'd love to do the events, because I love hosting people. Yeah. Every time we do something at home, it's always all out. We did a grand final party and I had everything organised, balloon streamers. I love to entertain. So I think that's my creative kind of flair coming out a little bit too. So I think if I find in here, I might be able to help maybe organise some events with somebody, or if I can later on, maybe it'll progress into maybe I'll set up my own event or something.
Oh, that's beautiful. I really love that. And then meetups, I'd forgotten all about that, but there are lots out there where people meet up for different things, and it's about finding your tribe and hanging out with your tribe. And I love, love, love that. So what's next for you? What's next? Busy at work, busy in life,
Yeah, so
loving
now,
life.
yeah, at the moment, things feel like they're on the up with life at the moment, I would say. And it's probably bad to say that because we should think about life as always on the up because we're
Yeah,
alive. And
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
forget that sometimes. But I think, this is a busy time of year we're going into. Everybody's trying to get everything done before the end of the year.
yeah.
So there's a couple of things that I need to make sure I'm really prone to burnout by the end of the year. So I'm going to be really conscious about just making sure that I'm aware of what's going on, not taking too much on. I get really excited about this time of year because it's social season. And connecting with people, seeing people, go family, and then hopefully taking a big period off over Christmas to do some travel. So that'd be good.
Oh, that sounds beautiful. And we've got your Insta handle in the show notes as well if people want to reach out and connect with you because Casey is the queen of connection. And so we've got your Instagram. Do you want to just give us, do you know that off the top of your head, your Insta?
No, I don't. I'm
No, we'll
very
just put it in. And you know, I don't have it written here, but it'll be in the show notes. So if you're looking for Casey's Instagram, that's in the show notes. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate that for you joining us, and I really look forward to seeing you in person at our Happiness Hangouts. And for those of you that are here in Canberra, I host those the first Wednesday of the month. It's an evening event, and the link will be in the show notes as well. And if you're not in Canberra, there's another little thing that I'm currently running called the Spark Sessions, and they're online, just where I answer. They're kind of like spotlight coaching sessions every Tuesday evening for an hour, and you can join just through Zoom there. So if anybody's interested in that, in connecting, so those details will be in the show notes. Casey, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on as well. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's very cool. See you, gorgeous.
Thank you.